Kay is a writer and visiting scholar about Spa University, and she's going to be, the title of her talk is Go Back and Fetch What You Forgot, Building a Fictional Character from the Earth.
So I'm going to talk about my novel, which is as yet unpublished, but hopefully will be published in 2018. It's called The Book of Secrets, and it's set in late 16th century London. And the heroine, Susan Charwood, is from Ghana, which was then known as Guinea. So my heroine is called Susan Charwood. And she was brought to England as a baby, grows up as a maidservant in a wealthy Catholic household, and then marries a printer and becomes embroiled in a world of political and religious intrigue while trying to discover the truth about her origins. So I'm going to talk about creating Susan as a character and how I was trying to marry historical fact with emotional truths that would resonate with a modern day audience, particularly bearing in mind the fact that I'm a white author writing a black character in the first person. Back in 2003, when I started writing the novel, all I knew was that I wanted to set it in Renaissance London. And we were living in Brixton. Our downstairs neighbour was a Nigerian actor, and I told him I was writing a historical novel, and he said, please can you put some black characters in it, because there have been Africans in Britain since Roman times, and you never see a single black person in a historical drama. And I thought, yes, let's do it. Didn't think I was interested. So I now had the concept of an African girl in 16th century London, but I knew nothing whatsoever about the black population in England at that time, where people might have come from, how they arrived, and what they did when they were living here. I did some research but found limited information available at that point in time, and life intervened, and I stopped writing the novel for some years and came back to it probably in 2011. At this point, Susan was not the main character, as the story was told by 4 separate voices. But as I continued writing, it became clear that Suki's was the strongest and most distinctive voice, and actually the drive of the narrative needed to be her own. In a way, her quest and my quest became the same, which was to find out more about her past. So we started with the bare bones, the facts. We know that black Africans lived and worked in London during the period I was writing about, roughly 1579 to 1600, because they're in the public records of christenings, marriages, deaths, wills, etc., where people from West Africa like Susan are mostly described as blackamoors or Negroes. By 2011, a great deal of this information is now available online, which made the research significantly easier. Marika Sherwood from the Institute of Commonwealth Studies put me in touch with Miranda, and also with Onyeka, whose book Blackamoors, Africans in Tudor England was published in 2013. And they were both incredibly generous in sharing their unpublished research with me. Miranda also referred me to the Guildhall Library's online database of black and Asian people discovered in manuscripts, which gave me a wealth of lives summed up in a few lines, and many people will already be acquainted with it. So I'm just going to repeat a few entries that relate directly to my research, which include the record of a funeral held for Domingo, a Guinea Negro, at St. Botolph Aldgate in 1587. Which notes that he was servant to Sir William Winter and was buried in the best cloth, which tells us he was held in high regard by his master. John Jacoya, a king's son in Guinea, was baptised at St Mildred Poultry in January 1611, having been sent to England by his father. And finally, there's the burial of a man blackamoor lay in the street, which was held at St Olaf Hart Street in June 1588. From these records and from Miranda and Onyeka's research, I know that black people in England at this time were not slaves. There were no slaves in England. If they wished to leave a master or mistress, they could not be legally compelled to remain. They worked in a multitude of different roles as servants or craftsmen or women. They married white English men and women and had children. Some, as the entry regarding the Guinea prince above shows, came of their own accord to England due to trade. Some came as servants to Spanish or Portuguese households, and others arrived by chance, perhaps as a result of privateering voyages capturing Spanish slave ships. So I decided that Susan would be brought to England by the trader and privateer and slaver John Hawkins, whose early trading and slaving expeditions to West Africa took place at that period of time. In the book, Hawkins brings Susan and her mother home after capturing a Spanish slave ship and gives them a place as servants to a rich friend. Suki is brought up and educated in their home, treated almost like a daughter until circumstances change. But obviously, although they're technically servants, there is absolutely no free will in their journey to England or in their servitude, however well they're treated. I decided by this point that I wanted Susan to be involved somehow in the early printing trade, as it was an emerging industry full of strong characters and linked to the Catholic underworld, espionage and religious controversy. It was quite an exciting place. It was also a place where women could and did run their husbands' printing businesses after they died. There are several printing widows in the archives, including Alice Charwood, the second wife of a printer called John Charwood, who may have worked on secret Catherine printing presses. Alice Charwood also has links to Shakespeare, as after John Charwood died, she married a printer called James Roberts, who registered the original rights to print the Merchant in Venice, although he later transferred these rights to another printer. I really wanted to set the novel among ordinary working people and highlight the fact that many of these were women, not princesses or prostitutes as they often seem to be in period novels, but women who worked or ran family businesses. And I also like the idea of hinting that Shakespeare's Dark Lady could indeed have been a Black African woman. So I replaced Alice with Susan and married her to John Charwood. There is no evidence that any printers were married to Black Africans, but they certainly could have been. Having established a feasible background for Suki, I needed to think how she would have been perceived and treated by fellow Londoners. And as the record mentioned earlier showed, Black Africans were not unfamiliar to Londoners at the time, but the English in this period seem to display the same mix of general xenophobia towards all foreigners, with varying degrees of acceptance towards those they knew personally, as they do today. The African slave trade in England was not established at this point, and the prejudices engendered and perpetuated by slavery had not yet developed. But contemporary records and literature show that blackness was often perceived as an infection or inherited curse from God, compounded by the Guinea people's Hebrew status. One contemporary reference comes from an account of the first English voyage out to Guinea in the 1550s. Richard Eden's preface to the History of Children in the West and East Indies contains a passage on the people of Central Africa, who were in old time called Ethiops and Negrites, which we now call Moors, Morans or Negroes, a people of beastly living without a god, law, religion or commonwealth, and so scorched and burned with the heat of the sun that in many places they curse it when it rises. This is a document that Susan herself could well have read, and in the book she does. How would she feel to see how people could describe with such contempt, and how did such narratives form contemporary views of Africa and Africans in people who would probably never visit the continent, including Eden himself, who never went to Africa? So I was trying to find a balance between showing that there were negative and racist views about black people in this period, but they didn't prohibit intermarriage, employment, or equal treatment in the eyes of the law. And Susan's Catholicism would actually make her more of an outsider in her colour, as Catholics were perceived as a genuine threat to the newly Protestant society. She might have faced fining, imprisonment, hanging, drawing, and quartering, discovered as a sin. And crucially, Susan has a place in society. First as a member of a wealthy household, and then as a printer's wife. Place was vital in Elizabethan society, as the great fear was of masterless men and people who did not fit into the hierarchy. Vagrants, soldiers returning from war, men without employment, perhaps the unnamed Blackamoor man in the records who died in the street. As a woman married to a London Guild member, Susan had a clearly assigned and a respectable place in society, and this would have made a difference to the way she was treated. Now, moving from the exterior world of fact, I had to create Susan's inner world, her thoughts and feelings, and this is where I hit a wall, because you can't extract evidence of feelings from the notice of a baptism in the public records. And as a white author, I was very scared of getting it wrong. I did not want to write Susan as some careless assumption of what it would be like to be a black person living in an almost entirely white country. I wanted to acknowledge and do my best to understand the way this would have affected her experiences. There's been some controversy recently following Lionel Shriver's speech, which showed that she was not intimidated by the concept of cultural appropriation, but I was not able to dismiss my fears that this story might not be long to tell. And the further I went with the novel, the more important it became to me to place Susan's African identity as precisely as possible, because identity was one of the major things that the slavers stole from all the people they took from Africa. So I had two new strands of research to find out exactly where Susan might have come from in Ghana and to try and forge a path to her inner life. Ghana came first. I found that information about the period I was looking at was hard to come by, but I was helped on by Tom McCaskey, who's a retired professor of African history at SOAS, and by information on the internet. And the key to discovering Susan's African identity was for me this little bird figurine, which will be familiar to anyone who's got connections to West Africa, which is gold weight, which the Akan people of Ghana used to weigh out gold dust. and it also represents a proverb. There's many of these gold weights, see in the second picture, and they all represent different concepts and proverbs. They all have their own meanings which change depending on the context. And the bird represents a concept called sankalpa, and one of its meanings is go back and fetch what you forgot, meaning don't be afraid to look back and learn from the past. And that proverb became a driving force for the narrative of the novel and my own research. I was so intrigued by the bird that I decided Susan should be Akan. I then came across a book called The Universe of Akan Gold Weights by an author called Georges Yangourambua, which is a text studying in detail all the known symbols in the gold weight system and the meanings behind them. It also looks at how they tie in with Akan spiritual beliefs and the fact that oral history suggests the weights used to represent an entire communication system and philosophy. So this became something very meaningful to add to Susan's history and identity, an archive of language which had been lost or forgotten and which she had no way of understanding. So I gave her 3 gold weights, brought over by her mother from Guinea, and symbols of her past that she has no way of interpreting, and I set about finding a way for her to access those hidden meanings. While I was in the middle of this research, I heard a lady called Jane Goldsmith talking on Radio 4 about her experience of going to Ghana and meeting her Ghanaian father in later life, after growing up the only mixed-race child in all white neighbourhoods in the 60s and 70s. I contacted Jane, who is a pretty amazing woman, who was the first black student and first woman ever to be elected president of the Leicester Student Union, which I think was a pretty tough gig at the time. And she was kind enough to talk to me in depth about her life and the profound effect it had on her rediscovering her family roots. And she helped me understand in some way how Susan might have felt growing up in white society and disconnected from a crucial part of her identity. It's fair to say I couldn't have finished writing the book without talking to Jane, and if I had, it would have been a much poorer piece of literature. And I think that's important when talking about writing from the archives, and as you were talking about earlier, because people are also archives and repositories of history and knowledge. So having spoken to Jane, and armed with further research into the Akan people, I was able to find a Ghanaian identity for Susan. Her real name is Nana Afua Nshonawa Adulan, which tells us she is Friday born and the 7th child of the family. On her mother's side, she is a Sona, one of the 7 Akan lines of matrilineal descent, and on her father's side, she is Pasompla, a clan known for their strength, and her mother's family come from the country and around what's now the town of Fixia. Susan herself doesn't discover all of that information, but I think it enriches the novel, and it certainly enriched my knowledge and understanding. So starting from the scraps of detail in the archives, led me on this path of research through 16th century London society to the complex history and philosophy of Akan and Jane's experience of post-colonial late 20th century racism. And it also ultimately raised my awareness of contemporary issues, from the lack of diversity in publishing and literature to the Black Lives Matter movement and the concept of white privilege, and to think about my own place in all this. So I think this shows the huge value of engaging with the archives and the worlds that can open up from examining a few lines of the parish register. Particularly at this moment in time, where we have a government that seriously suggested asking firms to list the number of foreign workers and the number of racist and xenophobic taxes shot up following the Brexit vote. As we sadly learned from the Brexit campaign, facts don't win votes, people vote with their feelings in hearts and not their votes. I think this is why it's so important to create stories from the archives and visibly embed the stories of Black British people in our creative culture, and then have the facts to back that story up in the archives where the stories stopped.